First up, we've got Keith Yandell. Keith serves as our Senior Vice President of Innovation for FORTÉ. He and his team basically work closely with the manufacturers in this room and others to develop and bring new technology to us and hence to the market from there. He will be joined by Erica Fox, who is a director of and global black belt from Microsoft. So we're excited to hear from both of them. They're going to talk a little bit about how artificial intelligence, what everybody's talking about today, but how that is being deployed in our world and in the workplace, and how it can help you and your team be more productive as well. So, uh, following the presentation, you need to stick around because we'll be doing, I think we're giving away a couple of prizes, right? All right. So stick around for that. Some really cool prizes, including Yeti coolers and Dallas Cowboys tickets and many other fun prizes.
Unfortunately, the Cowboys tickets are not as valuable today as they were yesterday.
That's true. We may have fun giving those away, right? Oh, without further ado, let's bring Keith on stage. Everybody give him a big hand.
Sure. Thank you. Ready to see?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, awkward.
All right. For the next 30 minutes, Eric and I are going to walk through transforming the modern workplace. Who here has maybe AI fatigue? Show of hands. Yeah, huge. It's like, man, another talk about AI. Well, hopefully, we're going to take a fun approach and give you some ideas maybe you haven't thought of. So diving in, as Robbie mentioned, I'm Keith Yandell, SVP of Innovation. Joining me is
Erica Fox, and I am a director in our global black belt organization at Microsoft, and we really thank you. And we really focus on M365 Copilot and Copilot Studios, so part of our AI stack within Microsoft.
How come I didn't get applause?
I know, I'm so sorry.
What did I do wrong?
I'm happy for you, Keith. I'm glad.
All right, I'm jumping in. So this is going to be a very Microsoft-focused presentation. And that's because our customers, you in the audience, have asked us to be more than a systems integrator. More than just call it doing these things. Microsoft is under the hood of just about everything we do. So we've had to build our organization around that with focuses in AI business solutions, security and infrastructure, app development, and premier services. So these topics that you see here, I think Robbie mentioned it, but in Innovation Park, on the other side of that curtain, at the top of every hour, there's going to be a 20-minute discussion that dives into these topics, and specifically, say, enterprise-grade logistics, our Velocity program that they talked about. Down there towards the bottom, 30,000 rooms in 6 years. That's a tremendous amount of volume of Microsoft Teams rooms, and we're very proud of that, and that's from our Velocity program. Erica, tell us a little bit about changes you've recently had within Microsoft.
Yes. So we thought that this was relevant to bring to light here with you all today because Microsoft over the past couple of years has been on a very relevant journey that we are now seeing our customers start to partake in. And so we like to share this as kind of a baseline or maybe a best practice of what we have gone through and what we are seeing. And so if you look here on the left, you can see that for the past 7 years, this is kind of how we went to business. This is how we interacted with our customers. We had multiple different workloads. So you say like biz apps, modern work security, etc. And within each of those workloads, we had different product sets. What you don't see within the different product sets is that there is a plethora of SKUs that are relevant to each of those product sets. And so if you can imagine, that is a lot of information for a seller and an engineer to have to be very deep on, right? And so it was very relevant for us previously to really kind of silo out our sales teams and our engineers to be very focused into each of those workloads. And ultimately, that is how our customers really used to do business too. We generally would work a lot with IT, and within IT, those individuals were separated out, where there were individuals that focused more kind of on modern work and teams and things of that nature. And then there were other individuals within IT that were really focused on security and governance, et cetera. And so for the longest time, we were just really kind of snapped in with our customers. It was just a very a tactical thing, right? What I will say, and this will be relevant to then why we kind of changed, there's a ton of information about all of these different workloads, both internally to Microsoft and even externally. You could become very dangerous if you had the time and wanted to on any of these aspects of Azure, security, modern work, et cetera, because we have a ton of data and information out there. So if our sellers in modern work wanted to know a lot about business apps, they could. But in a world prior to AI, that would have been very cumbersome to find that information, take a lot of time, and it wouldn't make sense, right? So fast forward to just about a year or two ago, AI really started coming into the market. As Keith said, a lot of us have AI fatigue at this point. But within Microsoft, we gave all of our information workers M365 Copilot and ultimately agents that were relevant to their workload. And what we found over the past 2 years is that these individuals were able to really expedite their ability to find information, to be able to kind of self-educate and actually to become much more well-rounded on all of our workloads and to be able to answer our customers' questions much more quickly. On the left-hand side, if I was a modern work seller and 3 years ago someone in IT came to me and wanted to talk to me about something outside of modern work, I wouldn't have been able to really answer it. And I would have had to do what we all loathe, which is we'll have to schedule another meeting with someone else to be able to talk to you about this. So when we look now, 2 years and more so on the right-hand side of this column, by implementing AI with all of our employees, allowing them to really start to be able to self-educate, bring relevant information quickly to their fingertips, to be able to ideate with Copilot on the best way to have a conversation with a customer about something outside their workload, we realized that we were going to be able to really kind of collapse these silos that we had on the left into something a bit more relevant for today's IT technology world. And what we also found as we were making this migration over the past 2 years of kind of focusing more on what you see here on the right-hand side is that this is also what our customers have been doing as well. And so we don't really see so much specialization within IT or within the CISO group. We're seeing a lot more of a kind of a do more with less attitude. And so we wanted to take that frontier firm process of just becoming very AI forward, AI thinking, and change the way that we go to market with our customers by utilizing AI, and that's kind of what you see more so here.
And so with that, who here is working on agents in their business, developing agents to automate certain tasks from the organization? So what that means, so 82% of business leaders expect to expand workforce capacity with digital labor within the next 12 to 18 months. What does that mean? You might find yourself going to HR, say within your business unit, and looking to add headcount for a specific function within your business. And HR might respond with, do you need an agent or do you need a human? That's just the reality of where this technology is headed. Agents are starting to replace, call it, the repetitive tasks that we do in our day-to-day and in our businesses. And that's part of why Microsoft realigned the way they did to get ready for that inevitable migration. And they coined the term frontier firm to identify businesses that I see some people in the audience going, well, I don't want to be replaced by an agent. And I would say, you're not likely to be replaced by an agent as much as you are likely to be replaced by someone who got really good with AI. That's what and I'm not the first person to say that. You've probably heard that many times from others, but that's the reality of the technology and how it's moving its way into our working lives. Anything you want to add on this slide here?
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're completely right. And in what you just mentioned, right, that you're not going to be replaced by agents or AI, but you could be replaced by someone that knows how to do that, right? And at Microsoft, we have found this to be the case. Every year we do what's called a work trend index report. And so we survey over 30,000 individuals across 30 different countries to really get a feel for kind of the state of the union of our customers in a very large swath. And what we found in the Work Trend Index report that we released, I think it was April of this year, is that the majority of leaders that we interviewed really do see this next step of meeting employees that are skilled with AI. This evolution of giving their information workers AI assistance, utilizing agents to really expand their workforce. And ultimately completely redesign workflows within their organization. These leaders see this as just the next step. There is no going back. This is where they are going with their companies, no matter what kind of organizational unit they're in. And it is this thought process that is becoming known and is what we coined as the frontier firm. I will say that what we have found in the past 2 years of this AI journey with our customers is that every company's experience is going to be very different in this journey. But across the board, we are absolutely seeing this journey, really a hybrid team of humans and agents kind of playing out in 3 phases. And you can kind of see those here, and I'll talk through them. What I will say is that these 3 phases are not linear. You don't have to start at 1 to get to 3. In fact, we have a lot of customers that are very advanced in like supply chain scenarios or R&D, and a lot of those customers kind of started in phase 3 years ago with very like high code, pro code, agentic solutions that were automated. And what we're seeing now is that AI is becoming much more affordable and usable for the average worker. Those companies are now coming back to phase 1 and getting all of their information workers some form of AI assistant. And so it doesn't have to be linear, but what we do see is that no matter what, with each phase that an organization starts stepping through the frontier firm journey, they do see an increasing ability to really scale rapidly, to operate with much more agility, and ultimately to generate value faster. And so if you guys can't see, so I know it might be
Yep.
kind of hard, but in the you heard good. In the first phase, this is having humans with assistance. So it's helping people do the same work just faster and better, right? And I just talked about this with Microsoft, where our ability to change how we are going to market and supporting our customers was because we were very well entrenched in phase 1. All of our information workers had M365 Copilot, and they were able to just do things faster, right? Be able to just do simple things like retrieving information that was relevant in a quick manner, right? So phase 1 right there uh, really gave us the ability to change how we were going to market. In phase 2, and this is where we're really starting to see a lot of our customers advance quickly, is bringing agents into the fold. Okay. And it's not just a one-to-one type scenario where just I have an agent, but really creating agents that are relevant for teams. Like Keith mentioned an HR agent previously, things of that nature, where this agent really kind of becomes a digital colleague. And so in a team, I can go to our relevant agent and ask it to do something like create a go-to-market strategy for me, or, to create an entire analysis on a certain product or the market, et cetera. And that agent goes off and does it for me, but it is at the direction of a human. Where things will really start to take off is phase 3. And this is where we are already seeing glimpses of humans managing multiple agents, and even those agents having agents under them that the agents will manage. And at the direction of a human, these agents will go and autonomously handle things. They can run an entire business process. They can run entire workflows. They check in with the human as needed. But this is where the market is going, and this is where companies are going to see a complete change in the way that they go to market, business value, ROI. It's a game changer.
Sure, absolutely. So we're really kind of at a crossroads. Some of what Erica just described might be scary to us, but it's the reality of where we're headed. And many of our customers, I think, are at a point in time where some of you've already maybe, kind of dove in and started your journey with AI and building agents, and others maybe kind of still, should we do this? Is this right? Is it going to become a wear and kill us all? That kind of thing. Is that going to happen? And on that note, I always address it with please and thank you, even though they say that cost data centers a lot of money. I do that so that when robots enter the equation, you've all seen the movie Terminator, by me being really friendly with it, maybe it takes me out last. Okay, so that's that's why I do that. Just want to be as courteous as I can be. But we are at a point in time. We have to make a decision. Which way are we going to take our businesses, and what technologies are we going to start to explore? So with that, there's stage 0. So thinking about what Erica just covered with the frontier firm and the different phases of AI adoption, and integration, who here is still in that FUD stage, that fear, uncertainty, and doubt? Okay, so no, good. Usually oh, there's some over there. There's some over there. And now phase one, think of that as using Copilot to do some of your day-to-day, having it summarize emails, using it in Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Who's in a phase one primarily today, using Copilot for the tools? Yep. And now we get into phase two. Phase two, now we've developed agents. We developed an agent internally. We called it ESOPerator. So we're an ESOP, Employee Stock Ownership Program. And we have employees that have questions like, how does the ESOP work? How do I get engaged? That kind of thing. And all that is in our internal SharePoint, but we built an agent called ESOPerator. I think it's on Smooth Operator, right? ESOPerator is to have some fun with the naming. So now you can engage that and it answers questions specific to that data set. So that's an example of an agent that normally would have required a bunch of emails with HR or something like that. Now an agent can handle those questions. And then phase three, as Erica mentioned, now that's humans with multiple agents working for them, but those agents also start to communicate with each other. And we've got some examples of that here in a few slides ahead. At the end of the day, this fork in the road or fork in the tracks, as we saw in that image, there's impacts depending on which path we take. First being financial. Without adopting AI, you risk using legacy systems, inefficiencies, or maybe you did invest in Copilot and less than half of your employee base is actually using the tool. So you're paying for things that you're not actually getting value out of. Who has Copilot today and doesn't use it as much as they think they should? Yeah, a good portion of you. But doing it right brings productivity into the business. We can imagine the value that brings to an organization. But really, look down at the bottom there, big fish eating the little fish. And we've got an example, a fictitious scenario that'll walk us through. If you drag your feet too long, the big fish might come for you. And then cultural. By building this, we all want work-life balance. We all want to be as efficient as we can be in our daily work activities so that we can have personal lives outside of work. Getting this balance right potentially affords us more personal time. It also creates a culture that attracts talent from potentially your competitors. So those are all things to think about. That's maybe the benefit side, the less scary side of AI for some of us. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I love this. We don't use a wheel like this, but I really liked it when you showed it to me because there are a lot of questions when we are talking to our customers about AI, specifically like leadership within organizations. We ask really distinct questions, and they actually fall into these four categories. And so, first and foremost, I think the most important thing to think about, especially if you're kind of in that beginning journey of AI, or even if you're still living in FUD over there, um, you know, how engaged are your leaders in what is an inevitable shift? The AI train has left the station. There is no going back. And so we have to have a really serious conversation with leadership about how engaged are they in knowing and participating in this shift. And part of that is making sure that leaders are really understanding the huge financial impact that this is going to have for their organization. Um, Another equally as important aspect is, do they even understand the competitive landscape when it comes to AI? Do they know what their competitors are doing with AI? And have they already started to think about how they can attack the competition by bringing in tools to make their employees faster, smarter, better ultimately? Um, you know, the other really important thing that a lot of customers don't think about is like, what is your culture of learning like within your organization? The culture is so important to understand how AI is going to impact. Do your employees even have the right skills? And within that skilling, do they have a growth mindset? Does your organization have a growth mindset? Because if you are one of the many organizations that we talk to that have just kind of done things the same way forever and it's worked, that's not going to be the most copacetic environment to kind of bring in new tooling, right? But the other one that I think we really like to hit on, and this kind of goes into like the financial one as well, is how do businesses today measure their productivity, which a lot of them don't. You don't go back and try to justify whether or not you should have email, right? That's a personal productivity tool. So how are you thinking about productivity within your organization? But then how are you also measuring business value? How are you determining what hits your bottom and your top line? How are you measuring KPIs in each one of your lines of business to really understand the impact there? I mean, that's important because when you are looking to succeed with AI, you need to understand those aspects of what is personal productivity and how does that affect your business. But then also, how do you go to business today? What are those KPIs? If I bring AI in and start measuring against those KPIs, what am I going to see? You would be amazed at how many businesses don't think about a lot of those things, and it's additional to the individual thought process of this wheel, but from more of a higher level scenario.
Yeah. Let's walk through a fun scenario here. So think of this as a phase 3 scenario. This is that human agent or agent boss relationship that we were talking about. Phase 3 frontier firm construct. We'll walk through from left to right. So we have Jane Doe. She's in sales and marketing. She has agents working for her. She has Sherlock, a lead research agent, Da Vinci, the proposal builder agent, and then Aristotle, customer engagement agent. Moving into engineering and delivery. So the teams that are delivering against the things that Jane sells, you have John Smart, design engineer, supported by Ada, or his code assistant agent, Nikola Tesla, documentation agent, and then Einstein, the knowledge retrieval agent. And then ongoing care and feeding of those solution sets that team sold and delivered to their customers. We have Anna Solver, the support manager, Dr. Watson, ticket triage agent, Madam Curie, the knowledge agent, and then Gandhi, the customer response agent, smoothing out all the bumps when things aren't going well. Okay, so those are the agents working for those humans. Where we get real acceleration, though, is when these agents start to work with each other to provide better data to, in this case, Jane, sooner in the process. So think about an example of that being Windows 10 end of life right now. There's a lot of pressure for our customers to upgrade to Windows 11 or come up with an alternative solution for that. Gandhi could make Sherlock aware of which customers have that issue. We can be proactive, reach out and help them solve those problems. And think about any customer organization that has these similar challenges. Now, Da Vinci, the proposal builder agent, if he's working with Nikola Tesla, he has better access to better documentation, putting more thorough proposals in front of Jane's customers earlier in the process. Okay. And then rounding it out, Einstein working with Madam Curie, the knowledge agent, as that knowledge base matures inside the service organization, that feeds right back into engineering processes and documentation, so we stop repeating mistakes of the past. That make sense? Kind of an interesting take on that, and you can overlay this on any organization. It's really germane to just about every services organization. Want to add anything?
Yeah, not only every organization, but more than just sales and engineering and service and support, right? We see where AI and agents are incredibly applicable to all sorts of lines of business: finance, IT, HR, you had mentioned, marketing. These are all amazing areas where AI can improve. So having this as like a great starting point to really get those creative juices flowing, I think is perfect.
So who thinks this is cool? Few of you? Who's on the creepy side? There we go. Yeah. Okay. Okay. You said it's not replacing humans, but those jobs could be done by humans. I get it. But it is the way the technology is headed. So let's walk through a fictional scenario. So Metanova Technologies and Truvance Medical Systems. Let's think of these fictitious companies as medical device manufacturers. They're competitors of one another. So we're going to walk through a year-over-year journey and kind of see how they brought AI into their business and what it ultimately did to one company versus another. So year one, Metanova added agents in sales. Results: faster responses, improved lead conversions for their sales force. Voice of the customer: Metanova is impressive. They understand our needs instantly. Year two, they bring in engineering agents. Enhanced service quality, market reputation strengthens. What are customers saying? Metanova is responsive and highly accurate. Truvance feels slower by comparison. Now, year three, you guessed it, they bring in service agents. Strong competitive moat now developed within their organization and their marketplace. Investors reward innovation. Truvance, day late and a dollar short. They drug their feet a little too long, didn't invest or take risk appropriate risk soon enough, Metanova sets the benchmark. We can't work with anyone else. Truvance likely was losing employees over to Metanova through that process because Metanova just flat out outpaced them in innovation. Is it probably not an implausible scenario if we think about where technology is today? You had your own experiences within Microsoft. Tell us how that went.
We did. So just like you saw the what if scenarios over the past 3 years, at Microsoft, this was kind of like our what if scenario just over the past 2 years, utilizing M365 Copilot and then agents within a lot of different lines of business, kind of like I mentioned previously. Some of these were impactful to productivity, right? So very hard to put a true like ROI dollar value on it, but still an important measure of employee and ultimately business success. And we saw that in I believe it was IT, right? Just increase in the success help rate for employees, right? So not necessarily like an ROI on our bottom line, but something that allowed the drudgery to be removed from IT, right? But then you also see where we were able to actually see higher revenue in our sales team when we did a double study to see, utilizing AI, who could do better, faster with less. And the team that had AI was able to do more and end up with 9.4% more sales. So all of this is public. We plaster it everywhere on all of our AI websites, our adoption websites, et cetera. So if you want to kind of get a better understanding and really dig into the use cases, you can. But we just always like to share from Microsoft as customer zero, like we eat our own dog food or, enter whatever other jargon you want here. And we see the same results that we are touting can be seen if other customers are going down this journey as well.
Yeah, so that 42% metric for human resources, the example I gave a minute ago about how FORTÉ built ESOPerator to answer questions for our ESOP. Same thing for Microsoft in that case, likely crawling a SharePoint data set to accelerate answers for employee questions there. Now, back to our fictional scenario with Metanova and Truvance. So how did Metanova outpace the competition? We saw the examples of bringing in agents, but there's another layer to this, and it's workplace experience platforms, workplace experience in general. So we all likely have some level of hybrid in our work environments, people working remote, people working in the office, understanding who is where at what time so that we can get that coveted face-to-face co-creation when we want it. There's tools out there that allow us to pull that off very effectively, AI kind of underpinning all of that. Maybe step us through what Microsoft's doing there.
Yeah. So, at Microsoft, we really have been building out kind of that AI powered workplace for years. And there's really always been aspects of AI in everything that we've been doing. Word, Teams, Places, Teams rooms, all of that has had little aspects of AI that you probably don't even realize was there because we didn't call it AI just a couple of years ago. But it's something that's been very front and foremost for us. And so at Microsoft, like many people, work from home had become the norm. And now that many people are going back into the office, people are traveling a ton now. We have really been working feverishly to either create new tools or amplify the tools that we already had to really kind of support this hybrid moving work-life balance with AI in the fold, right? And so there's aspects of that with Copilot, which is the first icon, Teams obviously, and then Places is the one that you see there on the very right hand side. And so we've just been really working feverishly to get our spaces and our tooling really up to par with what really has honestly become that kind of powerful work from home experience. And so this bleeds into all of our experiences, and even our mobile ones as well, right? And so for Microsoft, the main goal is to really kind of keep employees in the flow of work. If I can get everything done at home on my in my home office, I should be able to do the same thing when I'm on the road with my phone, and even when I come into the office, even if I don't have a desk or a regular conference room. And so we've been working really hard to make sure that, all of these tools are the same across the board. And so for me as an employee that has access to the Microsoft suite, I can go and have an in-person meeting with a customer. I can pull up the Teams app on my phone And by utilizing Facilitator, I can have Teams and Facilitator record the meeting while I'm sitting there speaking with my customer. I don't have to worry about necessarily taking notes. It does say out loud, you are being recorded, so it's not secretive and weird for the customer that I'm reporting our conversation. But when I do that, that ultimately then pops up as a meeting in my calendar that then has an AI recap tied to it so that I can go back and pull the notes. I can ask Copilot questions about it. And then I can get in my car and I can head to the office where I would have utilized Places to book a desk within a group that I tend to work with, right? So like I can grab a desk in my pod so that I know I'll be around people that I know. And then I can also book conference rooms that have the proper attributes that I need, like a Teams room. And so I can then, go in, get to my desk. I can have my meetings where then obviously we have Teams where we have intelligent speakers and microphones so that when I am having kind of a dual or a hybrid meeting, there's some people in the room, some people remote. AI is able to pick up who is who. And that is very important when we are looking back at the notes to understand whose responsibility was it to get XYZ done? And so all of that is just a bunch of different tools that we are trying to just allow and give so that people can stay in that flow of work and not stress. I'll just say, I know you travel a lot, I travel a lot. To be able to use Places to find a desk in an office in Chicago that is not my home base, little things like that that could just take the stress off of our employees so that they can just focus on what they're supposed to be doing. It's a huge game changer.
Yeah, for sure. So let's dive in a little bit deeper on some of those topics here. Today, who has a third-party space reservation system in their organization, some way to book spaces? Yeah, many of you. Who here has heard of Places? Microsoft Places. It's been talked about for the last couple of years, but it's really starting to gain momentum. One of the challenges space reservation systems have had in the past is employees typically don't want to go to another application to go book something. They want to do it in their normal day-to-day. The normal applications they're using, say Outlook and otherwise. Today, who's still using the really kind of unimpressive old school way of booking spaces in Outlook? Just grabbing a room, right? So it doesn't tell you much about the space. All you know is the name of it. You don't know what's the capacity, and unless you included that in maybe the name when you set up the entity. How about having visuals to actually tell the story of what that space is? But that is still more the traditional workflow where you have to go seek out a space, understand what's available, and book it. What if, and this is where Microsoft's ultimately headed, Copilot does that via conversation? I need a meeting room next week in Building 5 for 10 people. Or, better yet, if you're using Meeting Insights, it could book that on your behalf based on the conversation it was tracking at the time it happened. Now, who has multimodal spaces, so configurable rooms, divisible rooms, and those can get really complex. One modality might be a horseshoe table arrangement, another might be road tables like this for training. Somebody has to get triggered into doing that, setting that room up for the people that want to reserve it. What if that actually happened as part of that Copilot conversation? I need a training room set up. And not only did it trigger safe facilities to go in and do that configuration, but it also set up the AV system accordingly. So the user wasn't tasked with going in and selecting a mode that they didn't even know existed on the touch panel. Okay, so that's where this technology is headed, which can really make things easier for the user and improving employee experience. To do that, though, requires us to modernize. We have to have the right technologies in the space to bring those experiences forward. Who's familiar with Facilitator? So Facilitator is a new agent that came out from Microsoft, and it's a meeting facilitator available in Teams rooms. The experience, let's say two employees run into each other in the hallway. They start having a conversation. This isn't a scheduled meeting, but they want to duck into a room to finish their conversation. They can actually walk up to a Teams room touch panel, scan a QR code, and launch Facilitator, and the room is now taking notes for them in that meeting, and will send those notes to whoever triggered Facilitator to launch. Okay, that's pretty cool, right? It tiptoes on the creepy versus the not creepy, but it's a what's that?
You have to start. So at least it's not risky.
Yeah, we have to start it, so it's only going to do it if you trigger it to do so. But for that to work, there's other technologies involved. Who here has authenticated their face and voice with Teams so it recognizes you in a meeting? Few of you have. So now with Facilitator, it recognizes that Keith Yandell is talking, and if Keith committed to certain action items, you'll get that as part of the notes that it brings back. Here's what Keith committed to in that meeting. On the visual side, if we're all from Teams Desktop called into a meeting, it's obviously going to say it's Keith Yandell in this little window, this talking head. But if we're in a room, a wide shot of multiple people, we really don't know who Keith Yandell is at that point. You're going to, in the traditional sense, have a tag of the room's name, and then you're kind of guessing who that person is, perhaps talking. Well, with facial recognition, now it can assign my name to me in that room call, bringing the goodness of home, we like to say. Jason Roberts here likes to say goodness of home, brings that goodness of home experience into the meeting space. And then lastly, optimizing. Are we getting a return on our investment? We're investing in these technologies. How are our employees consuming it? How can we continue to get better at using these tools in our business? So these are the three legs or the three pillars Microsoft is approaching the modern workplace with. So what's next? What can we do? We like to say, don't boil the ocean. Do things one bucket at a time. So start small. If you haven't already taken the leap and experimented with AI, start small. Get some quick wins. Understand how you can get value from these tools within your business. And then as you start to ideate and understand better what your business could find value in AI, build a business case. Address risks and readiness. These aren't things that you can just flat out turn on. There are security concerns in your business to make sure as AI starts, call it crawling your organization, you want to make sure you're building appropriate fences around data people shouldn't access. So there's a security side to all this. Know what you're getting into before you start. And then ultimately starting roadmap conversations, where you are today and where you want to wind up. So kind of wrapping it up for us, really what path will you choose? We've presented kind of both sides of the equation. Hope you enjoyed our talk today. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to close out as a thank you to Shure for paying for our experience here together this morning. And then much of what we talked about, you can dive in deeper on any one of those topics at FORTÉ Park, just on the other side of that curtain. Thank you.